You're listening to Ideal Practice episode number 104. I know you think you can help everybody, and perhaps you can, but at what cost? Well, today we're going to talk about the true cost of working with non-ideal clients. You might find there's a little bit more to this than you thought, my friend. So, stay tuned. Hi, I'm Wendy Pitts-Reeves, and with over 2 decades of experience in the private practice world, I've built my 6-figure business while learning a lot of lessons the hard way. This is the first podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of energy, alignment, and strategy to build a practice that is profit-centered, but people-forward. This is the Ideal Practice Podcast. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Ideal Practice. This is Wendy Pitts-Reeves, your host. Did you miss me last week? Because I wasn't here. Yeah, I was a bit under the weather last week. I had no voice for most of a week and was a little bit better and actually sat down and tried to record an episode for you last week. Actually went through the whole thing and just was not happy with it. Did a little bit of my Mae West sexy voice. I think I still have a hint of that today, but I think I'm mostly past it. So I just decided to skip it. So how's that for me practicing imperfection? Yeah, it's not actually one of my strong suits, but I have a pretty powerful work ethic, and my tendency is to keep going no matter what, sometimes to my detriment. And last week was kind of shaping up to be like that. And I just couldn't do it, you guys. Just couldn't do it. So I let myself off the hook and hope you will not mind if we miss a week. But I'm back here today. I'm feeling great. We had a beautiful weekend. This was Mother's Day weekend, and that's not always awesome for everybody. I know for some folks that's a tough weekend. If you're one of the folks that is the case, I hope you found comfort and solace in some way this weekend. I will say I actually had a little date with my sweet boy on Saturday night. It was so freaking adorable. He called me up a few days earlier and asked if I might be interested in, get this, dinner and a movie. I'm like, sure, honey. I don't know what that was going to be. And then the night before, calls me up and said, okay, we're not going to go to a movie, and I have kind of a surprise for you. And I can't figure out any way to tell you this except to say you have to dress up. And oh, by the way, this is what we're doing. And he took me to a Pops concert of our local symphony, which was just so much fun and so cute. What a rare treat to spend an evening with my sweet boy. So that was really something. I hope you had a beautiful weekend too. I want to tell you a big part of what I've been working on. I've got something really cool that I am cooking up for you guys. It's a new series, a new training series that I'm going to be bringing to you the first week in June. So I want you to make a note of this, okay? Because this is only a few weeks away. 3 times that week, June the 3rd, 5th, and 6th. And yes, there'll be lots of repeats about this in various ways, but June 3rd, 5th, and 6th, basically over your lunch hour, okay? We're going to start this thing at 11:30 Eastern and go till about 1 o'clock. That's 8:30 Pacific. We'll take you to 10 o'clock, so it could be your morning coffee before you start seeing people for the day, or if you give yourself a nice break in the middle of the day. You are not going to want to miss this. This is the Ideal Practice Summer Workshop Series. Ideal Practice, the Summer Workshop Series. I am so excited because here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how to overcome overwhelm and finally create the profitable, sustainable, and dare I say, enjoyable private practice that you've wanted all along, but you never thought you could have. That's what we're going to be talking about. It's a free 3-part series starting on June the 3rd. I'll be posting details in the show notes. I'll be emailing many of you. And we're going to talk about 3 themes during that week. And y'all, I am drawing this from my framework, the 7 pillars of an ideal practice. Some of you have heard about this. It's essentially the foundation you need for a healthy practice, okay? We're going to dive into 3 of the things that I see people having the most trouble with, because I've coached a lot of folks around the country for several years now, and there are certain themes that keep popping up over and over and over again. The first day, we're going to talk about healthy pricing, okay? How to claim your worth, how to own your authority, and how to set your pricing accordingly. All kinds of stuff around the energy side of money and the practical, how to set your pricing. The second day that week, we're going to talk about what is most effective marketing. We're going to talk about how nailing just 5 key elements, just 5, which sounds simple, can power up your message and help you connect with your best clients. And guys, this is one of the tools that I teach my coaching clients. It is, I think, one of the most useful things I've ever learned as a business owner myself, and I'm going to be sharing it with you in this workshop. And then the last day that week, on that Thursday, the 6th, we're going to be talking about what it means to be the CEO of your own show. On being a CEO, what does that mean? We're going to talk about how to align with your power and how to avoid some of the more common problems that come with running your own show. This is not for the faint of heart, is it? Those of you who've been at it for a while, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm talking to you guys, okay? So I'm going to, in this series, I'm going to be sharing with you actionable strategies in each one of those areas. And guys, this is a workshop. This is not me talking at you. This is me teaching, sharing, and us working in-house while we're together. So it's going to be highly interactive. I want you to come prepared to look at things that maybe you haven't looked at in a while, to be willing to do a little bit of important cleanup in your work, and to think about your business in a whole new way. Come prepared to get some work done, okay? Because that's what we're doing. And the whole thing's free. The whole thing is free. But I do need your name and your email so I can send you the link. We're going to be meeting on Zoom. It is a private link. I am not posting this publicly. So you will need to register so that I know you're coming, okay? And it would be a good idea to go ahead and get yourself on the list now. The way to do that is go to wendypittsreeves.com. That's my website, /summer. You know, the summer workshop series, right? I like an easy to remember URL. wendypittsreeves.com /summer. Come and join me. Make a plan now. Mark off the middle of your day, June 3rd, 5th, and 6th. If I were you, I would mark off 2 full hours, not because we're going to use that much time, but because you're going to want that much time to kind of be fully present. And guys, it will not hurt you to shift a single client somewhere else in the day, or maybe to the next day. It will not hurt you to do that. Give yourself this gift and join me. I think you're going to love it. I've been teaching this stuff for a long time, and I think it is hard to put into words the power of a live, interactive experience like I like to lead. So come, wendypittsreeves.com /summer. So over the next few weeks, I want to start helping us get ready for that workshop. So we're going to be talking about a variety of things over the next few weeks. And today is the beginning of that process. So today, I really want to dive into the concept, the idea of a non-ideal client. Because there is a belief system in the healing arts that we really should, and I use the word should on purpose, be able to and willing to serve virtually anybody. Anybody. If you are serious about helping the world, then you've got to be willing to help everybody no matter who they are, right? And you know what? On the surface, that sounds lovely, doesn't it? Lofty, wise, kind. Yeah, I love it too. But that actually doesn't work in reality. And you'd think I'd know this by now. I have been doing this for a long time. Y'all know I've been in practice for too long to say. And by now, you think I'd have this figured out, but I still make these mistakes from time to time. Like over the years, there have been, not tons of time, but there have been some very distinct times when I worked with folks that I had no business working with, okay? On the counseling side of my work as a psychotherapist, the most obvious one I always remember was early in my practice. It's back when my sweet boy and my daughter were young. I had just spent 5 or 6 weeks in Guatemala, and I was feeling pretty good about my Spanish at that point. And I came home and took on a Spanish-speaking family. The husband spoke English, sort of, as a second language. The wife didn't speak hardly any. And I actually agreed to try to help them. I don't know what I was thinking. That didn't last long. I think I saw them twice before I'm like, yeah, I can't do this. Who am I kidding? Yeah, that was a non-ideal client that I thought I could help, which was crazy on my part. And yeah, it seems obvious now, but it felt like at the time I'm like, yeah, I think I can do this. But you know what? That one was obvious, but a little bit less obvious. Like sometime just in the last year, I agreed to see a client whose presentation was a type and manner that really is not my thing. Like one of the things, believe it or not, I actually don't work with so much is anxiety. I'm not saying I can't do it. I can. And we all have a little bit of that in various ways. But when the overwhelming big issue that someone comes to with is anxiety, it's really better if I don't take that on, if I hand that off to someone who enjoys that more, is a better fit for that more, has more tools to help with that more. Well, I agreed to see somebody last year that was the number one presenting issue. And I shouldn't be surprised it didn't last long. Like that person only came a handful of times. Not because we didn't have a nice chemistry. We did. This person was really sweet. I enjoyed talking to this person, and I think I gave them what I could. But it wasn't a good fit. I know it wasn't a good fit. And I should not have even tried to take that on, but I did. Well, that's on the counseling side, and I can tell you lots of stories like that over the year. I mean, I got better at it over time, but learning to recognize, like, yeah, this person is probably not. Even though I can help them, I probably should not, right? But even on the coaching side, I've done this. I did it a lot in the beginning when I first started doing my coaching. I'm always a little bit worried about, like, I don't want to get nailed down into one thing, right? Y'all have heard me talk about the concept of a niche, which I actually now think is a good idea, but I have resisted it for years. And when I first started coaching, I was like, I can work with any small business, any heart-centered small business. So anybody who's coming at this from a heart place, no matter what the work is, I can help them with that. And so I did. I worked with event planners and attorneys and a balloon artist and an actual artist, all kinds of different folks doing all kinds of things. But my goodness, y'all, those were not, I mean, even though they were great people and I adored them and we did, by golly, manage to do some good work, it came at a cost. So I worked with an artist who custom designed interiors of elite, really over-the-top $1 million yachts. What do I know about that? Well, the truth is, like, business is business, and it is actually true that the principles I teach you actually could apply to almost any small business, which is why I could actually work with almost anyone. But that particular person, because of a personality factor, a personality style, the way that person approached their work, at one point in the year that we worked together, that person completely disappeared, like didn't talk to me at all for a couple of months. And I had this whole dilemma about, do I reach out? Do I chase this person? Are they overwhelmed? Have I said something wrong? Like, what's the issue here? And folks pay me a lot of money, y'all, to work with at that level. So I was, constantly sort of stressing out over guilt. Am I not serving this person? What do we do? What do we do? And then I had somebody who at one point was calling in for their coaching calls while they were traveling all over the country on not work-related trips, not tucked up in a hotel with a good Wi-Fi, but out having fun. And one point, this person called in for a coaching call from the back seat of a convertible that somebody else was driving while they were driving down a mountain out west. I kid you freaking not. Called in for a coaching call where we're supposed to be talking about the progress they were or were not making and what project we were working on and the principles they were trying to learn and how to move their business forward. And they called me from the back seat of a convertible. driving down a mountain or being driven down a mountain. I have lots of these, and I have other stories I could tell you, but honestly, I don't want to share I don't want to share too many because it makes me feel bad when I think about them, honestly. And that is a sign of what a non-ideal client feels like. It feels bad. The work feels bad. Now let's talk about what I mean by a non-ideal client. I do not mean that you don't like them for some reason. In fact, a lot of the folks who might be a non-ideal client for your business, you might love hanging out with them, going out for a cup of coffee, or for that matter, grabbing a beer. Like if you had met them on the street or through some other aspect of your life, they may be people you would thoroughly enjoy. But what I do mean is that they are not a good fit for you and the work that you do. And in particular, it seems to me that a lot of the problems tend to fall into 4 key areas of your work. It's either the skill set that you bring to the table and the match for what they need, or their ability or their willingness to invest in the work, both financially, emotionally, energetically, physically, or it's the intersection of your energy and theirs. That's a critical piece that I don't think we honor nearly enough. Or sometimes it just comes down to expectations. What they expect, what you expect, and a mismatch. All of this, y'all, costs you. And it costs you in ways that I think you may not even recognize. And this is so important. So let's dive in. Let's talk about these in a little bit more detail. These are 4 areas of disconnection. There are 4 ways that you may not connect with these folks because they are not your ideal client. And I know you guys, do you understand when I say this? Let me tell you how I feel when I am working with any of my clients on the coaching side or the counseling side. It's almost a physical sensation. The desire to help, the desire to connect, the excitement about what's possible. When I'm working with someone who is truly an ideal client, sometimes I get goosebumps, y'all. Sometimes I find myself like, it may not show on the outside, but inside I'm kind of like sitting on the edge of my seat. Like it's so much fun. Now fun doesn't mean we're talking about easy stuff. Sometimes we're talking about really hard stuff. But I am alive. I am engaged. All pistons are firing. I am totally like every part of my brain is turned on. And I almost feel like spiritually, like energetically, like I feel like this energy is pouring out of my heart and into them. I almost feel like this literal sensation of pouring into them. And it's like I am reaching for a connection. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's so strong in me that it almost feels physical sometimes. And it's always been there. I think I've had this all my life. When I am with someone that I am meant to serve, that connection is alive. It's on fire. It's pulsing with energy. It's a bright, white, sparkling light. It's so good. But when it's not right, when I'm with someone that it is not an ideal client, there's a disconnection there, and I want to see if you recognize this. So the first area that I mentioned is the area of skill set, okay? You may just not have the right skill set for what they need. So the problem is that if you're trying to work with someone that, you could help them, but the truth is somebody else would be better at this, you're not going to be able to help them as well as you know you want to. And you're both going to end up feeling frustrated. It's not going to feel great because you know that you're not bringing your best to the table. You don't actually have the right tools. You don't have the right experience. You don't have the right training, right? You don't have that. And when you are not bringing the right tools to the table, there's a really good chance that they're not going to act on your guidance or that it's just not going to be effective. What does that cost you? It costs you your own internal sense of competence, of effectiveness. And y'all, the truth is, it just flat takes the joy out of the work. It doesn't feel good because you get a high off of helping people, right? Now, over the years, I'll give you an example of how this has played out for me. Like one of the things I have never, ever worked with as a mental health professional is I don't do eating disorders or eating related issues. I just don't. I don't have the training for it. I don't have the patience for it. It's not in my wheelhouse. And there have been times over the years when I would do an initial consult with somebody and they really wanted to work with me. And that was part of their issue. And I would say, okay, we can try this, but you need to know that is not my strong suit. Now, all these other things you got going on, I can help you with that. But as we continue, if I feel like this is the big issue, I'm going to refer you to somebody else because I have an ethical duty to do so. So that was like straight out. We were very honest with each other, very direct. They knew what my limits were. And if they wanted to stay anyway, okay, we can give it a shot. But we were both very clear on where we stood. But there have been times when it wasn't anywhere near that black and white. It was just sort of a general sense that, yeah, I can probably help with this issue. But you know what? If you don't have the right skill set and it's not in alignment with what you really love to do, you and they will come away from it you'll feel frustrated. You'll know that you haven't given them your best. They may just feel discouraged, like they can't be helped. So there is a cost for trying to serve someone that you aren't really suited to serve, okay? That's the first area of disconnection, and you can't underestimate the importance of that. But the second area of disconnection is their ability or their willingness to invest fully in the work. Now let's talk about what that means. When I say their ability, they may just literally not have the funds to meet you where you are. And it might be that you just can't help them. Okay. Now there's lots of ways around this. We can talk about that. But let's say they've got the money, like money isn't an issue, or you accept third-party reimbursement and they've got the right insurance, whatever. Let's say the money isn't the problem, but they're the tire kickers. They're the people who are shopping only on costs. They're calling around. They're just finding out who's got who will do a sliding scale, who will work out a deal, who has the lowest rate, whatever. That's really kind of all they're looking for. Those are not your ideal clients, my friend. They're just not. If they're the tire kickers, then that means they are not coming to this from a place of wanting to invest in themselves, in their health, their growth, their well-being. They are not approaching the work from that centered place. You know what I'm talking about? And the odds are really good that you're going to have to chase the money, or that the first time something goes wrong, they get upset with you and don't feel like they should pay you, or little things happen like they miss more appointments and then give you grief over your no-show cancel or policy, because at the bottom level, they are less committed to the work. Now, I want to be really, really careful about this. The cost does matter. Money is important. There's a certain financial reality people have to work within. I'm not talking about that. If their approach is, I've got to be careful because I only have so much I can put into this, but I really do want the best I can get considering my ability to pay or to invest, well, that's fine. That's different. That's a different kind of energy. But if their whole approach is, what do you charge? How do you charge? Do you work with people on pay? Do you have a sliding scale? And they're offering that, asking that right off the bat, I don't think they're going to be good for you. And then let's talk about even if they are willing and their energy is in the right place, but they really can't do it. One of the bigger coaches that I ever worked with, who charged $10,000 and up to work with, she would say to people, listen, if you can't buy food, don't come work with me. Like even in a big major event and there's a big push to sign up and it's lots of emotion in the room, she was very clear. Do this because it's right for you. Do not hurt yourself to do this, right? If someone really cannot afford your fees, your temptation will be to cut your fees. But if you slash your fees too many times or in a random way or without any kind of thought out process in advance, you are really going to hurt yourself, guys. You're going to end up broke. You're going to end up being resentful. You're going to end up with a really messy practice with lots of people paying lots of different rates, and it's going to get hard to keep straight. And you're going to end up burned out. Like, that is a recipe for disaster. If someone really can't afford to pay you and they really want to come see you, you will only serve them in two ways. One way is if you have a very clear policy and a very narrow window where you can serve someone like that. Maybe you take on two people like that at a time. Maybe you only agree, you never go below a certain level. And if they can meet that, okay. Maybe you do have a payment plan, but it's a very strict payment plan and they cannot miss. You have to have something like that. The other way that you serve them is by help them find somebody that will work with them. Help them find a resource. Help them find several resources. Like, don't just leave them hanging. Help them. But don't take them on yourself, because you're not helping them or you by doing that. So if they are not able or not willing to invest fully and properly in what it takes to work with you, then they are not an ideal client, and it will hurt you if you try to take them on. The third area of disconnection that is so subtle we often miss it is mismatched expectations. Now, sometimes people, even when you talk about this, you think you're working together, but you'll find that you have a very different idea of what working together means. So the problem with this is that sometimes, have y'all ever heard me talk about the concept of being at cause versus being at effect? I talk about this a lot as a coach. When you are at cause, it means you own the responsibility for what happens in your life and in your work. The ability to respond to what's going on around you. It means you're the boss. And no matter how things go, you claim that, you own that, you fully embrace that. And y'all, this applies to our life as well. When you are at effect, it means you are kind of on the receiving end of what happens to you, and you approach life that way. Well, if your non-ideal client lives from that point of view, then they may very well expect you to do some kind of magic, but they don't really own responsibility for their own growth. And they may want more of you than you can give or even should give. They may be looking to you to do all the work. I've often said, when I was providing clinical supervision, if you find that you're working harder than your clients, there's a problem. That's a definition of a non-ideal client. The work itself will become ineffective. As I mentioned earlier, they're less likely to follow your guidance. And you will become, I'm telling you this, I can tell you it's going to happen. You will just become the latest in a long line of people that they have complaints about why things don't get better in their life. Those people didn't help me. That one didn't help me. That one didn't help me. That one didn't help me. So if their expectation is that you're going to do the thing and they just sort of show up and you make it all better, that's a problem. And here's how this is going to cost you. You will find that you work harder and harder to make them happy. Speaking from experience here. And y'all, the truth is that leads to all kinds of icky feelings, and it becomes a gigantic drain on your time and your energy. These are the people that you spend more time on the phone with. These are the people that you offer, extra meetings with. These are the people that you sit down and you spend hours writing the right email to try to help them out in some way. Like, when your expectations of how the relationship works, what you bring and what they bring to the table are not well defined, are not in agreement, you're going to wear yourself out trying to make them happy, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And then let's talk about the most subtle one of all. And that is the disconnection that can happen with a non-ideal client at the intersection of your energy and theirs. Now, when I was putting this episode together for you, at first I was thinking about this like personality or chemistry, like you just don't click. And to some extent that is true. It could be that. It might just be that there's you can't find anything in them to relate to. I talked about a moment ago about that physical feeling I have of reaching out to someone and like almost feeling like I physically am like sort of trying to build this energetic bridge to them where I connect to something in them. When there is a mismatch in our energies, I can't find it. It's not there. I feel like I'm sort of searching around in a void. It's the weirdest feeling. I don't know how to describe it any other way, but I almost feel like I have this like literally like an energetic bridge that's sort of groping in the dark. Can't find anything to latch onto. Now, it can be lots of things. It can be that they have a really different worldview than you. And y'all, I am a psychotherapist and I was trained that I should be able to work with anyone. And that is true. I can work with someone who has a worldview that I vehemently disagree with. And what I will tell potential clients is what I think doesn't matter because it's not about me, it's about you. And I believe that. That's true. That is my clinical self talking. My job as a clinician is to serve them where they are and as who they are, not to try to change them in some way. And I can do that and have, which is how I have worked with people that, by golly, I would not hang out with outside of an office, right? But here's the thing. If there is a real serious disconnect between the two of you, and you cannot find something in them to relate to connect with, what you're going to find, the way it's going to cost you, is that you will have to rein yourself in more than usual. You will have to watch how you sit, how you talk, the words you use. Now, if you're a psychotherapist, you have to do that anyway. Like that's a big part of our training. But it is so much easier when you are with an ideal client that you really can kind of be yourself with. Still professional, still in line, but you don't have to hold your breath quite so much. And what I find when you're working with someone like this is that your creativity suffers, your intuition gets choked off a little bit. Like you just find that you are less present in the way that you want to be, or that it takes massive energy to be present. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. It takes all of your energy to be present because you are so having to be careful about how you are there with them. I find it feels a little bit like trying to push water uphill. Does that make sense? It's exhausting. It can be literally physically exhausting to work with someone where your energy and theirs are so out of alignment. Now, you'll know when these cases, when you're with somebody that fits all these, because you'll feel it. Your intuition, my friends, is a powerful resource. The first piece of advice or guidance I want to give you about how to manage all this is to listen to that inner voice. Listen. When you're doing an initial consult with somebody, whether you do the standard 15-minute phone call or you follow what I teach, which is to set up a proper paid initial experience with them that you can go deep with them, which is what I think is a way better way to do it. I want you to listen to what's coming up inside, okay? Listen to your body. Notice any tightness that happens in your belly, in your chest. Notice if you find yourself struggling for words. Notice if you find your brain freezes a little bit. Notice if you find yourself getting a little bored or you find yourself kind of checking out in a way. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're not an ideal client. That could be something else that's going on. But these are all clues that I want you to tune into that are coming from your insights. And if you find that there's a red flag popping up, that you may be a mismatch in one of these 4 areas, skill set, investment, expectations, energy, well, let's talk about what you can do about it. Because here's the good news. Those first 3, you actually can do something about it. So let's say that your skill set isn't a good match. If whatever the issue is that they are bringing to you is something you really want to be able to do, it's an area you want to be an expert in, it's something you wish you knew more about, go get some training. Find a mentor, work with a coach, sign up for a certification course of some sort. Go do what you got to do to become comfortable in that mode of working, whatever that is. Go get some training, get better at it, and then come back to it. And you will be able to serve those people. That's fine. So you can actually just work on improving your skills, or you can refer them out. So, but that you can do something about that first one. The second one, their willingness or ability to invest in the work. Well, yeah, you can do something about this too. All right. First of all, you can set up your packages and your pricing in a way that clearly outlines the value of your work so that it is a no-brainer for people who want to work with you. Like that's really on you. That piece about whether they are willing to invest what it takes to work with you, that's actually a marketing issue. That's also a mindset issue on your part, right? Like there's lots of layers to this. But when you set up your marketing copy and when you learn how to speak about payment and pricing in a way that does not apologize for who you are, you will bring many of these folks on board and they will actually be quite willing to invest with you. But you'll also learn to spot the ones who are not, and you learn to refer those on, okay? As far as the people who don't have the ability to pay, I already addressed that earlier. Come up with a very limited way of serving those folks or have a really good referral list where you can send them on, okay? So, and then the third thing that I talked about, managing about the expectations, when you have a disconnect between what they expect out of your relationship and what you expect, you can do something about that too, guys. Like this is all fixable. That is what I would encourage you to do is take a hard look at what you do during, honestly, the pre-sale phase of your relationship and the onboarding process of the work. So everything from what your website copy says to what your emails say to how you talk to them live about what you do and how things work. Like the more clear you are up front about all the things, how payment works, how after hours contact works, what the work itself will require from them, what they're going to love about it and what they're not. The more you can lay that out for them up front, the better things are going to be. So it's a lot about you as the leader in this relationship, learning how to manage expectations by spelling those out up front. That's a key part of your overall success as a business owner, okay? So that's also something you can do. And if you have those very clear conversations and it's clear that they don't get it or aren't comfortable with it, then best for both of you to part ways now before you dive in, all right? So those first three things, skill set, investment level, expectations, there is something you can do about all of that may or may not turn a non-ideal client into an ideal client. So this is not a black and white thing. I want you to know that. But let's talk about that fourth one. That fourth one where your energy is just not a good match. Yeah. All I'm going to say about that is listen to your insides and act accordingly. If it doesn't feel right, it isn't, guys. If it doesn't feel right, it isn't. And literally, every time I forget that lesson, I am reminded about it again. So if you find yourself saying anything like this, yeah, we can make that work, or it should be okay, or, well, I don't have to like them to work with them, or, I should be able to handle this by now. I mean, it's not like I'm new at this. Or I feel so sorry for this person. Somebody's got to help them. Golly, I hate to just send them on. That's terrible. Or I feel guilty for saying no. Or the worst one of all, you know what? I need the money. What the heck? I'll make it work. If you are saying any of those things, my friend, to yourself or out loud to them, then your answer to working with them should be a hard no, or a kind no, a gentle no, but a clear no. My go-to for all of this that a coach of mine used to say is if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. I cannot emphasize this enough. Listen to your insights. Now, what do you do? Here's how you kind of head some of this off in advance, because everything kind of comes down to how you prepare as the leader of your business, right? Well, the first thing you want to do you want to kind of head off the non-ideal clients. First thing you want to do is get clear on who your ideal client really is. Who do you really want to serve? And I'll tell you guys, that's harder than you think. It's I've watched my clients my coaching folks really struggle with this. Knowing who you really, really really targeting that person takes a lot of thought and time to get clear on. But Figuring out who your non-ideal is a good way to start. If you just start thinking about the clients that you have not loved working with and why, that will get you started in that direction. So that's the very first thing to do, is just get clear about these people in advance. The second thing to do is to set a boundary and stick to it. That applies to payment, that applies to your time, that applies to your contact, that applies to how they treat you. All these things. Set those boundaries, y'all, and stick to them. And my favorite thing is be ready to refer. Know your colleagues, know the resources in your community, know where to send people if you cannot help them or choose not to work with them because of any of the things I'm talking about today. Don't just send them off empty-handed. Like, help them out. What they do with it is up to them. Remember that part. You're not responsible for their life, okay? But you can give them information. So that will help you as well. And you don't have to feel bad, all right? So I hope you take this to heart, because guys, if you listen to what I'm teaching you today, your life is going to be so much easier. Your practice is going to run so much smoother, and you're going to enjoy your days so much more. All of those clients that I talked about in the beginning, I did work with all of them. But on the counseling side, they didn't last, which always makes me feel bad. I feel like, because in a way, I feel like I was a treatment failure in those cases. That's a really strong phrase to use, and I don't love that. But my worry is always that they will go away thinking, yeah, see, I can't be helped because that person, she was so nice, but I didn't get better. That's how I worry about those. So that's terrible. But on the coaching side, yeah, I helped people. We did get somewhere. The artist that I mentioned, by the time we got done, he was ready. He was talking about getting ready to sell his custom design business for over $1 million. He was looking at 1.2 was what he was thinking he was going to do. That one who called from the convertible, we worked together for, a year and a half, couple of years, and did all kinds of things. I was able to help that person get their proposal process nailed down. They had a very complicated business. I was able to help them get their systems in place for managing employees. Like, we did all kinds of good work. But all of it took a ton of energy on my end, and I learned a lot from it. The bottom line, a non-ideal client, y'all, isn't worth any amount of money. If you don't hear anything else today, hear that. A non-ideal client just isn't worth it. For their sake or yours, they need to go find someone who will be a better fit for them, because it's not good for them or you. So do yourself a favor. Get clear on who you serve, and kindly and gently steer away those who are not for you. This is one of the keys to designing an ideal practice, my friends. So that's what I've got for you today. Go back and make a note of those dates I talked to you about at the beginning, June 3rd, 5th, and 6th. Keep an eye on your inbox. If you are not on my email list, get on it. Y'all, go to wendypittsreeves.com/summer so that you'll be on the list to get notices about the summer workshop series. It's a free series. We're going to talk about some good stuff. You're going to love it. You don't want to miss it. And I cannot wait to hang out with you and get some really cool things done. All right, everybody, have a great week, and I will see you next time right here on the Ideal Practice Podcast. Bye now.